Okay, let's begin part 2 of this tutorial where we're going to do a couple things. We're going to add features like a door. I'll show you how to do a window or a rounded window as well. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these individual panels that you see here and we're going to lay them flat and save that file as a DXF file, which will prepare us for importing into our software for our CNC machine. So let's start by creating a new sketch on this front face where we're going to create some of our features. Okay, so let's go new sketch and let's go here. Now, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of the panels that are here still. We can always kind of just hide those right now just so we don't have to see that. So we can just see our front face here, right? So I'll keep the front panel there. Okay, we don't really need to see anything else. Okay, now one thing that I want to do is potentially project some of these lines here onto my new sketch. Okay, so projecting those lines will help me kind of guide me of where to place certain things. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so let's project this line, for example. That's an important one. Okay, so let's just do that one for now. Okay, so now that will be on my new sketch. Okay, and that was just P on my keyboard. And the first thing I'd like to do, to be honest, is draw a center construction line. Okay, so I'm going to hit line and make sure that I select construction. And there it is, there's the midpoint of that line, and just draw that going up like so. All right, just to kind of give me a reference there. Now I'm going to start with the door. Okay, make sure that I remove the construction little button there now. And I'm going to start just by creating a rectangle for the door and then like an arc on top of that rectangle. All right, so let's make the door, let's say 1.5 inches wide. All right, so let's do a rectangle. We'll start it here like that. Okay, so let's make it about 1.5 inches tall actually. And let's go with 2 inches wide. Nope, that's too wide. Let's go with 1.5. Okay, perfect. And let's hit enter. Now, first thing you want to do is make this symmetrical, right? So let's add a constraint, a symmetry constraint, with this line and this line along this center line. All right, and there you go. It becomes fully constrained by doing so. Let's now create a circle at this point of intersection here and drag that circle until it snaps to this corner. All right, so rather than doing an arc, we can actually use a circle and now simply hit the T keyboard button here for trim and trim away what you don't want. All right, now that circle is going to go blue. Just hit dimension, D on your keyboard, and dimension that. Okay, and you probably also have to then dimension this from the bottom. Okay, and there you go. Now it's fully constrained. Okay, so that's going to be my door, and I'm going to obviously cut this shape out when I have a chance. All right, but for now, let's just leave it as is. And let me show you how I would potentially create a window. All right, and actually, let's do like a rectangle here to kind of show like a separation of levels. Okay, so that could be another part. So I'm going to hit P on my keyboard. I want to project this line and this line and hit OK. And now hit R for rectangle, and I'll just draw like a rectangle just to show some separation, like from here to about there. Let's make it 0.25 inches thick, right? Because that's the size of our plywood. All right, and it's already fully constrained, so that is good. because I created it on the midpoint here, that's why it's fully constrained. The midpoint of this line. Okay, let's do a window here. I can really do two windows. I can do a window here and then mirror it on the other side. And then I'll do like a circle on the top. Okay, so let's hit rectangle. All right, let's decide on a size. So I like 1.75 wide. I like that. Oh, no, let's go with 1.25 this way. Oops. Okay, hit tab and do 1.75 that way. Okay, clearly not fully constrained because I haven't given it a position. Okay, I'll do that a little bit later. Actually, I can just do it now. So let's do from here to here. That's going to be, let's call it 0.4. And let's do from here to here. Let's have that distance just be, let's say, half an inch, 0.5. Okay, there you go. Now we're fully constrained there. I'm not going to mirror it just yet because I'm going to show you how to kind of split this window into 4 separate sections. So you'll see what I mean. I'm going to hit R. And actually, before I do that, let's create another part to this. Like, let's add like a 3D frame that's going to pop out of my window here. So if I hit the offset button to offset this rectangular shape and make it bigger, you can either go into here and hit modify, offset, or we can hit O on your keyboard. Okay, I like to use the keyboard shortcuts. So what do I want to offset? That, okay, and then just use this arrow and let's do that. And you can see it's a negative value there. So let's do negative 0.25. Okay. All right, so that seems pretty good. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now let's do the 4 sides of the window here. We're going to split it up into like 4 little rectangles. So hit R on your keyboard and draw a rectangle. Then hit R again and draw another rectangle. I'm not caring right now about the size or anything like that. We'll worry about that in a second by doing some constraints. Okay. So clearly that is not going to work. So let's see, what could we use in order to draw this a lot more even without even putting any dimensions? Well, here's what we're going to do is we're going to actually draw a center line going through here and through here and create symmetry across those center lines. So they're going to be construction lines. So L for line and then construction. We're going to take this midpoint, drop it down. We're going to take this midpoint, which is actually all the way up here, and take it down. Now watch. I'm going to create symmetry between this line and that midpoint, that midline. So symmetry here, here, and there. Okay, you see how that moves up and they're symmetrical. Do the same thing here, 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 and there. Okay, that's okay that happened. We're going to dimension those anyways so that we know how big they are. But as long as that they're symmetrical, we told it that they have to be symmetrical. So all we have to do is dimension one of them and both will change. Let's do that now just so we can look at this a lot better. So let's take this dimension. Let's make that 0.5. Okay, I like that. And let's take this dimension and make sure that that is, no, not that. Just make sure only the line that we're interested in gets highlighted. If that doesn't work, just select this line. Okay. Now let's also do symmetry across this way. So again, hit escape on your keyboard and choose the symmetry button for this line, and this line. And this line, and that line. Okay, and now it's still blue because we got to give it a dimension. Okay, so we got to give how far out to make that line. So hit D on your keyboard and select this dimension here. That's at 0.747. Okay, let's make that 0.75. Okay, and let's make this one. Oh, sorry. This one here, also 0.75. Okay, and there you go. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Should be totally symmetrical. Let's go zoom out a little bit so I can mirror all of this over to the other side. Okay, mirror it all over to the other side. So what I'm going to do, I already have my center line. I'm going to select everything here going from left to right. So that includes all the constraints, everything. Okay, and I'm going to go to create mirror. Okay, across this right here. So select mirror line right there. And there you go. Perfect. Okay, and then lastly, I can just create my circle here. I think that's easy enough, but I'll do that anyways. So I'll create a circle right here, let's say. Okay, and let's maybe do it. Oh, it's still at a construction line, so let's remove that, hit C again. And let's do that at what, 1.5, let's say? That should work. It's still blue because I need to give it a dimension of how far away it is from the bottom here. So let's do that. So D, let's go from center to center down there. 7.3, maybe we can, let's just do 7.3. It's all good. Okay, I like that position there. All right, so I'm happy with that. Let's finish sketch. Okay, and let's bring everything back in so we can see this and how it looks. Okay, and now we're going to hit extrude, and we're going to extrude whatever we want here. And we're going to extrude separately for each thing. So E, let's do the door first. If I rotate around here so I can see, I want to go inwards so it cuts. And I just want to cut negative 0.25 here because that's how thick my piece of wood is. That's all I need to do. Okay, good. Now you can see you can't see that sketch anymore. So you may need to make sure that that sketch is visible right there. So it's the last sketch we made. Okay, just so I can see it because I got to keep extruding here. So E, let's do this part next. We're actually going to stick that out. Let's say 0.5 sounds good to me. Oh, and I just forgot something. Make sure that you make a new body there. So if you extrude, that's so important. Okay, see how by default it goes to join? Make sure it's a new body. For the hole that we cut, that's not important, right? Because it's just a hole. But for new parts that you're adding, make sure that you're selected with new body here. You'll see why that's so important in a minute. Extrude again, and let's select this. And again, let's go up 0.5. New body. Now I'm doing each of these separate. Okay, I'm doing each of these separate. And there's a reason for it, and you'll see why. So I'll do this next. Because I could select multiple, like I could have selected both window frames at the same time. But I want them to be separate. And now I'm going to I'll cut these holes all at the same time actually. So here, actually, let's hit E. Okay, orbit around. And actually, we can do that for our circle as well. And go through negative 0.25. And there you have it. Okay, so just an example of what you could do potentially. I'm not saying you've got to do anything of what I've done here, but just how you can kind of create some extra features there for your birdhouse. So I'm going to hide that sketch again because it's distracting. Go home, and there you have it. Okay, so we now need to lay all of these parts flat. Okay, everything here. Roof panels, front face, that roof, side face, base, the window frames. Okay, we need to lay that all flat. So we're going to just move over. We're going to create a sketch. Now, in our CNC machine, you're actually going to try to lay everything down. I'm only going to provide you with a 20-inch by 20-inch piece to fit all of these items on. All right, 20-inch by 20-inch. So we want to create, from the top view, create a rectangle that is 20 by 20. Okay? All right. Oops. Okay, so there it is. We're going to lay down all these parts flat on that. Okay, so we've got to create this base here. So let's finish sketch. Let's extrude. And let's call that's also going to be 0.25. Make sure that it's a new body, which it is. There's nothing attached to it. And hit OK. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through the process. And actually, you should save your work at this point. So let's save this. I'll call this my birdhouse part. Birdhouse B. Okay. And save. All right. So once you've created this base, one of the things that you want to do right away is you want to ground this. All right. You don't want this to move because we are going to be creating joints, moving each one of these components onto laying them flat on this piece of 1/4-inch plywood, I suppose you can think of it as, right? So we want to ground this though. This is going to be staying still. So we want to make sure that we're selected there. And let's find which one it is. It should be the very bottom. Actually, it should probably... There it is there. Okay. Let's right click. Okay. And you should see the option there to ground it. All right. So now that's kind of pinned in space. You can't move that. That's what we want. Okay. So next, let's start to move these over onto here. Okay. So everything's a component. Let's go to the joint button and let's select our first part that we want to move over to here. You want to make sure, now by default, you're going to be on rigid. Okay, that's going to be default there. Okay, what you want to do is make sure that you are on planar. Okay, planar. All right, and now you may also come across another issue here of selecting bodies. Okay, so let me just hit OK here. And you can see now that I can kind of move that anywhere along this surface because I chose a planar joint. Okay, and again, so just make sure if you are clicking on faces here instead of entire bodies or components, it just means that you've got to go into the select little menu button there and make sure that you select a priority of selecting bodies. Okay. So select bodies there, and it'll select, I mean, you could do components as well because the bodies are within the components anyways, but you can do select bodies. All right, and now what you want to do after you've moved a part, you have to click on capture position right here. You have to click on that each time. Okay, so capture position. Otherwise, it's going to move back to the middle. Okay, so make sure you do that. Now let's continue moving all these different parts and arranging them. Okay, so joint. Let's do this here, right there. Join it to here. It's already on planar because we've already done that. Okay, and hit OK. We can now just move that, move that somewhere else. All right, and again, let's go a little bit faster. Oh, and I forgot to hit capture position. So when you don't do that, it'll ask you, do you want to capture position? Yes. Okay. All right. All right. So let's keep going. Joint here to here. Hit OK. And click on it and move it over. Capture position. Joint here to here. Hit OK. Click on it. It's a smaller piece, so it's harder to kind of click on that body there, and then move it into position. Okay. And let's go with this back panel now. Oh, capture position. Joint. Let's do this one to here. These are our two big pieces here. We may as well do that. Okay, hit OK. And select it and move it somewhere. Okay, and capture position. Now joint, let's do this face. Okay, perfect. Notice how it's taking the, and it kind of put it in on an angle for whatever reason. So we can fix that. Let's click on it and right click and say move. And let's rotate that. Oh, not the right way to rotate. Okay, so it's only selecting the face. That's why that's happening. So I can see here that it appears to only be selecting the face, which is a problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up here, selection filters. We don't want to select through all of these. Let's just go with bodies and see what happens then. There you go. Click, right click, move, and hopefully now that will move appropriately. Yeah. Okay, move it 90 degrees. Hit OK. Actually, I didn't move it 90 degrees, but that'll work anyways. Okay, if I really wanted to, I can fix that, sure. There you go. Still looks odd. Let's look at it from the top. All right, well, that'll be fine anyways. Okay. All right. Let's do the rest. So let's go back home. All right, and let's go. Oh, and I forgot to capture position, so it'll ask me, which is nice. Okay, so joint. Let's do this there, ooh, right there, to here. Hit OK, and select it and move it out of the way. We may need to rotate that. Okay, so let's do that. Let's rotate that. Negative, let's go with negative 90. Okay, now select it and move it into place. And capture position. Let's do the base. That's the next big part here. I think we're going to be able to fit everything pretty good, I hope. Oops, I didn't select the right thing there. Oh, again. Okay, select and move. And again, I'm thinking we should rotate that because that's going to take up some awkward space. So right click, move, and rotate that around to 270. And move that into position. Okay, and let's do this roof. That's our last big piece there. Let's capture position. Now you're going to have to orbit around to a flat surface there, right there, to here. Hit OK. Select it and move it. Okay, now we just have the window frames, capture position, joint, and this is where it gets a little tricky. You're going to have to probably zoom in a little bit. Okay, there you go. Capture position. A couple more times here. I know it gets tedious. Oh, I think I selected the wrong face there. Okay. There you go. Move it into position, and one more piece, which we can definitely squeeze in right there. Capture position, assemble once more. Sorry, joint. And then we're going to go to the top face because I made the thickness 0.25 here, right? So make sure that you go to the top here, right there, and bring that over here. Hit OK. Don't have to watch that animation every time. And we're going to rotate that around. So let's see here what we can do, making this fit. Okay, let's rotate that 90 degrees. And that should fit quite nicely. Let's capture position. And let's look at this from the top. I think we've got everything now. Okay, there you go. We do, and you can fix whatever you need to fix. It's really bugging me that this doesn't want to go straight for me. There you go. Okay, and there you have it, and we've got some room to spare there. Okay, but we're not done just yet. So that's great, we've got this, but now we actually need to project these bodies onto a sketch. All right, we got to project these bodies onto a sketch. So I need to create a sketch. Okay, and then what we're going to do is use the project tool to project the bodies or the geometry onto the sketch. So you'll see what I mean. Okay, so here we go. Let's create a sketch right here on top of this surface. Okay, actually, let's not create a sketch there. Let's create a sketch in between. Let's create a midplane. So we are going to create a sketch in between this top surface here and this surface right there on the very top of these bodies. All right, so we're going to create a midplane that is in between those. So here we go, watch. We're going to go to construct, midplane. Oh, and I forgot to capture position. Okay, now our plane, we want to be between this face, sorry, okay, let's just make sure we click on capture position there. Otherwise, it kind of behaves weirdly. Okay, so here. Okay, so now it's only selecting bodies. Let's see if that'll be okay for us. Yeah, it is. Okay, because remember, we chose the priority of selecting bodies only. So if you zoom in, it's going to be hard to tell, but we've actually got a plane in between. There it is. You can kind of see it right there. It's in between the top of this body here and the top of our base. Okay, so let's go back to the top and let's zoom out. Okay, let's create a sketch on this plane that we just created. Okay, I promise we are just about done here. And let's hit P on our keyboard. And the difference is now is you are going to project, your selection filter will not be specified entities, but bodies. Okay, so normally we hit project and we just start selecting lines. Now we have to switch from entities to bodies and hit OK. Oh, sorry. P. Okay, and now just start selecting body there, 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 there. Okay, so because when we bring this into the CNC software, like it has to be like a 2D, it can't be like a 3D body. It has to just be a 2D sketch. So what we're doing is we're projecting the lines of these bodies onto a sketch, and we're going to hit OK, and you're going to see this happen, which is precisely what we want. All right. So now if we go and we turn off all of this, all of these components, all that will be remaining is our sketch. Okay. So we're going to find, that's this sketch right here. It's our most recent one. It's sketch 11. Okay. We're going to now take this sketch and turn it into a DXF file. So we're going to right click that sketch and say save as DXF. Okay, so let's call this is Birdhouse B for me. Okay, and let's save. And there you have it. Okay, you now have your flat 2D sketch that you can bring into our CNC software. And it's a proper format, it's a DXF format. And then we'll make a separate video on doing the tool paths, which is pretty straightforward. It's pretty much already done for us, the tool paths. We just have to specify a few different things in the CNC software once we've imported this image. Okay.